Ora abbiamo in linea per il CoAsIt Lisa Barrett, con cui abbiamo parlato in passato, ed una persona con cui parliamo per la prima volta, Susan Maiorana. Good afternoon, Lisa and Susan. Thank you for joining Radio Italia Uno via Zoom.
Thank you. Grazie. Ciao.
Ciao. Now, I said we've already spoken to Lisa a couple of times with her favorite cockatoo. No, it's not a cockatoo. What's the...
Is it lorikeet?
Lorikeet, yes. But Susan, we haven't met Susan before. So, Maiorana, can you please just introduce yourself briefly? I think you're a new addition, newer than Lisa, to CoAsIt.
Newer than Lisa. Yes. Thank you, Antonio. Yes, I joined CoAsIt nearly 5 weeks ago in the role of CHISP, which is the Commonwealth Home Support Program.
Commonwealth Home Support Program. Yep.
Commonwealth Home Support Program, a project officer. I've got a sort of a fairly big background in community services in government and in the not-for-profit sector, and coming to just help the team with managing the current programs that they've coordinating externally, and with some of the operational side of things as well. And working in amongst, the radio, other, the consulate is here, and that sort of thing. So, it's been a great introduction to the sector, to the Italian aged care sector. Yeah.
Okay. Can you remind us then briefly what are the CHISP programs that CoAsIt manager is always involved with?
Okay. Well, we have 3 programs currently. We have one at Lockleys, where you can play. There's all social support groups, so you can play bocce and you can do tombola. Only Mensa, which is once a fortnight, where you can get sort of good conversation, pool, and great lunch, and Compagnia Club, where they do cards and tombola, and you get a beautiful lunch there too. So they're the 3 support groups that we have at the moment.
Yes, those lunches are cooked by the lovely volunteers. I know quite a few of them at Mensa. So I wasn't aware of the Lockleys program. Where and what is that?
Previously, it was called Theberton. It was the Theberton program. The beautiful old Theberton building has been knocked down, and CoAsIt are now coordinating it themselves, and it's at Lockleys.
I think it was called Theberton Seniors or something along those lines, wasn't it?
And now it's at the sports club at Lockleys,
which is actually a beautiful venue.
Yeah, and they offer the same services.
Okay, so and if someone in that Lockleys area wanted to join the program, how would they do that?
Well, anyone can come to the program, and there's a small cost at Lockleys of $3, and if you want to join the program with CoAsIt, then you need to get assessed through My Aged Care. So you ring My Aged Care, get your My Aged Care number, you get an assessment, you get a code, and then when your name comes to the top of the list, you come along as a client of CoAsIt. So then what goes along with that is, a duty of care. We make sure that your care needs are met, and also it's free. So you don't need to pay anything to come along. But truly, anyone can come along as a private citizen. You don't have to have a social code. You don't have to have been assessed by My Aged Care. You can just come along and enjoy the company.
That's the same for all of it, all programs, isn't it, Lisa?
Yeah. So you mentioned $3 at the beginning?
Yes, if you are not a client of CoAsIt, the cost is $3.
Oh, okay. That seems very, very reasonable as a cost.
Extremely reasonable.
It is.
Yeah, and they roll out a really good program. They set up all the bocce mats, and the gentlemen get there early and set it all up, and it's this gorgeous venue at Lockleys in a sporting facility upstairs, looking over the trees and that sort of thing. It's lovely.
Yeah, and they have a lift for those people who have difficulty with stairs.
It's lovely.
Yes. Okay. Oh, that's good. That's nice. Okay. So what topic do we want to cover in greater detail today?
Well, we thought today we'd sort of and go off the my aged care and what you might need to support you at home, and talk a little bit about scams, because definitely in the age of AI and all the things that can easily fool you into thinking that it's real, some things to look out for and be aware of, and what you can do if you're worried about it.
Ok, quindi parliamo di truffe, scams. And it's interesting. So we're talking about in the context of older people, but everyone can be subject of a scam.
Absolutely.
I've actually, at one of my workplaces, every now and then they would do little tests to see how people responded. And I once failed. I clicked on a link. I knew I shouldn't have done it, but I did click on a link in an email. And so I had to do some extra training for this. So anyone can be subject to a scam. So maybe give us some examples of let's start with some general principles. Why is this a big deal?
I think, as Lisa said, it's about the technology that is in flow, in all our lives at the moment, and just how easy it is to not know the difference between something that's real or not real. I think, we're all most people, including a lot of older people, all still have mobile phones. Their iPhones are internet connected, and they can still easily be contacted through phone calls that are coming from, overseas, from illicit sources. My mother-in-law is Italian. She's 86, and we constantly tell her, don't answer the phone when you get a call from a name, because all the people that ring you should be people that you know and are identified in your call list. But she'll still answer the phone because she's curious and nosy, and she'll answer the phone to a caller from somewhere, and then she'll try and say to us later, oh, but he only wanted to know blah, or he only wanted to talk about something else. And we say, no, please don't answer the phone, because you don't know who that person is, and you don't know what they're asking for, and you don't know what you're saying yes to. So for me, one of the first things is just calls, that, and my sister, I've seen it with my sister. She's actually been scammed. She's not Italian. She's supposed, but she has just decided, oh, I'm going to answer that call, or I'm going to have that conversation with somebody on the phone, on my mobile phone. And she shouldn't have, because it led to something that, meant that she was out of pocket. And it wasn't an inconsiderable amount of money. So I'm conscious that, I suppose, with some of my relatives, I think phones are one of the early starts. And then, like you said, Antonio, the phishing tests in the workplace are good. But I think, it could be something even like the parcel delivery, thing that you get from time to time. You've got a parcel on your front door, please confirm your details so we can leave it, or whatever. The fraudsters pretending that they're from Telstra or NBN or, whatever, and they're coming to fix a virus. There's a lot of those sort of techie type stories. But, even the ATO and people impersonating as your bank or as the ATO or MyGov, and particularly now with My Aged Care, and a lot of the older people being linked to My Aged Care IDs and that sort of thing. There's still a risk, I think, with those sorts of sources and untruths.
Yeah. So I think the trick is to say, well, we can all be vulnerable to scams. And I know that talking about the ATO, I had a call seemingly from the ATO where they said, oh, you owe this money, and if you don't pay up, and let us help you. So I put the phone down, and even though I knew I didn't owe them any money, I was still a bit worried. So I actually rang the ATO and I said, look, I think this might have been a scam. I just want to check out, how's my account looking? What's the details? And they are very interested in anyone. So if you ever get a call, to report it. So if it's a call particularly for the ATO, report it to the ATO, because they can deal with it if they know. So that's one of the first big things. If you do answer a call and it is potential call that you're unsure about it, put the phone down, don't ring back the number you've just had, ring back the agency they claim to be and check it out. So that's a simple way of going, look, I'm not sure, it might be real, but I'm going to make a check on this. And the other thing about getting a phone call is, like, I'm super nosy. So if I get a missed call from a number that looks quite real, I am always tempted to ring it back. So that's another thing to remember. If it's somebody who wants to speak to you, they'll leave a message. If they don't leave a message,
you know
they'll call back.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's my
And-
wife taught me that. She said, if she doesn't recognize the number, she won't answer.
Exactly.
If it's someone who wants to talk, they'll leave a message. And sometimes I do leave a message and I go and listen, and it's all in Chinese.
Yeah.
I've had that.
No, I think the leaving the message, I always do the same as Lisa. I don't, if I don't know the number and there's no voicemail at the end of the call, you know that they really weren't genuinely wanting to talk to you. And I think with the bank, with that, even just the other day, it was just with the ANZ Bank with, an account. And I just thought, I'm just not sure about it. I'll go into the bank. And I actually asked them and they said, no, it is genuine. We did send you that email and that request. And then we were able to do it face to face. And I know that sounds a bit old fashioned these days because everybody does everything virtually, but I just felt more comfortable just doing it face to face and knowing that I was updating genuine records and confirming my address and contact details. So I think they're the sort of things that I think older people should still be thinking about.
Because I think for older people who don't have computers, I think most people have a mobile phone now. So that's the one way. And with AI, they can imitate voices of people that you know. So being careful of thinking about things like, if somebody asks you for money over the phone, don't give it. Again, if it's your daughter and suddenly they're asking you for money out of the blue,
or a grandchild,
you just put your phone down and you ring back the actual, you ring them and you say, did you just ask for money? Because that, I've had a phishing scam at work, which was not a phone call, but the similar way where it was seemingly from a colleague who said, I'm really holed up, I've got, vomiting. Any chance you can loan me $20 because I can't get out? Luckily for me, 10 people in the office got the same message. So we were like, yeah, well, that can't be real.
Yeah.
But these are simple ways of scamming. And you just got to remember the rules. Always put the phone down and ring them back. Never send money. Never give your details out over the telephone. No reputable company is going to ask for your Visa. The ATO is not going to say, well, we just need your Visa card right now. You got to, if they're asking you for card details or to give them money in an emergency, don't do it under any circumstances. You're better off refusing a genuine thing than you are giving money to a scammer.
Yeah, I've heard several stories of people being called from overseas saying your son or daughter is in trouble or in hospital or something. The phone's not working. We need your money to pay, and that is a difficult one to respond to.
Yeah. Because if you think it's family, your immediate and whatever, but you have to verify, and I think the other advice is, if in doubt, speak to somebody else in your family, speak to somebody you do trust, a son, daughter, daughter-in-law, whomever, or a neighbor, and just make sure you're talking it through with somebody you trust before you do anything silly.
And having the conversation, when you have children and you say, okay, I used to say, I will never send someone to pick you up at the school gate without telling you. Not a friend, not someone you know, and that you don't know. So someone you don't know says that I've sent you, it's a lie. So, and that's a conversation that you have ongoing. So having a conversation with, your grown-up children or your partner and go, well, I will never do that. I will never send someone else to ask you for money. If I'm, it's never going to happen. So if anytime that ever happens, I will 100% tell you that it's not true. So that you have sort of a few safety measures within, you know, your own systems that you can rely on. I mean, there are wider issues then. Sorry, Antonio.
Yeah, there are wider issues. Are you aware of all the people that have been subject to scams?
I know somebody who was subject to a $20,000 scam. They lost $20,000, and it's money you can never get back.
Yeah.
You can report it to the police, and the police can only do limited investigation, especially if it's overseas.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to get caught up, especially in some of these sort of scams when you're lonely, and it's a bit of a, I mean, don't they call them love scams? It's not really that.
There's
But
romance scams and investment scams and things like that as well. Yeah. One of the situations that I encountered recently, and I sadly say somebody I know, was thought that she had signed an agreement with a tradesperson for some work on her roof because she had a leak down one wall, and she thought that the tradie was going to just put a roofing person was just going to put some flashing to try and, you know, direct the water elsewhere. She ended up signing an agreement with him, and she didn't really read it properly and really probably understand it very clearly. And the writing, which I saw, was incredibly scrawly, so it was tricky to read. She ended up signing and agreeing to $38,000 worth of roof repairs on a small cottage in Adelaide, just out of Adelaide, the city. And we were alerted to it a couple of days after the work had started, and went there the next morning and talked to the fellow that was doing the work. And she later sort of said, look, I felt coerced, you know, intimidated into saying yes. He was quite an intimidating sort of character. I felt like I had to say yes. But she thought she was signing up for $3,500 worth of work, and it ended up being 38. We managed to get him down to 18,000 to just finish the job and get out of there and just cover the cost of materials. But even so, that was a ridiculous amount of money. It was a ridiculous scenario. And it was an older person who just really probably, should have run the quote past a family member or her son or somebody else that she trusted. Didn't, but at the same time was probably a bit intimidated. I remember even that happening with my mum, who was elderly many years ago, having some work done by a tradesperson on her house, and then him coming back and actually putting his foot in the door and demanding more money. You know, so older people are pretty vulnerable, and I suspect older people from, you know, all sorts of backgrounds are equally vulnerable as well. You know, so you probably can't avoid all situations, but I think you know, we can put people on an awareness that these are risks, and just to be really careful. You know, keep your house locked, keep your keys with you, always have your Medi alert around your neck, even if, you know, you're using it because you're afraid. You know, there's nothing wrong with getting you know, a call alert activated, even just because you're afraid because somebody's on your property that you don't feel comfortable with, you know, those sorts of things.
Yeah, and what could someone do if they've been subjected to a scam, or if they think they are? So you already mentioned, say, maybe ask some relatives or trusted people.
Look, if you think, because, you know, common ones are banks and, you know, the ATO or PayPal, is to put the phone down and look up a legitimate number, ring them and ask the question, look, is this real? Can you check it out for me, to get a real answer? I mean, you can contact the police if you have been scammed, but sometimes there's limited things they can do. Because we can talk about online scams, but I know for lots of older people that luckily may not be a thing. But the Australian government do run a website called scamwatch.gov.au, and you can go there, and there is a click box for you where it says report a scam, and you can report the scam. Unfortunately, there is no telephone number attached like there is now, you know, it's more and more difficult to find somebody to ring. But the good thing about it is that there is also a tab that says your language. So you can, if you feel more comfortable in Italian, actually just click Italian and the website will be language appropriate for you.
And I think you can also, the other thing I've done from time to time with those dodgy phone numbers that I'm not comfortable with, I've just entered that phone number on Google, and often it will just tell me that it's a scam.
It's in Chinese.
It's a Nigerian call center or something like that.
So an important thing that Liz was saying, not to call back the number, but to go somewhere else and find an official number and call them to ask about that. Yeah. Okay. We're getting on in time. So let me go back to a question that I was going to ask, and Susan's already partly answered it. So Maiorana. Maiorana sounds very Italian. So can you tell us about your Italianness?
Well, I'm not Italian. I'm an Australian-born Aussie mischiata. My background is, somewhere from Germany, between Germany, Wales, and Scotland, and I'm not sure where else. But I married a young man from whose parents were born in Italy. His mother is from Calabria, and his father is qui vicino Napoli, in the Campania area. So that's given me some lovely exposure to the culture of Italy, the values of Italian families and Italian people. Quite a big learning curve, marrying into a family that way, but enriched ultimately. In many ways, my life is enriched through the connection.
We're in Calabria.
His mum is from a little village called Santa Nicola, which is, I'm trying to think of the coast, and I can't quite remember where it is. I'd have to look on a map, Antonia, to check where it is. Tiny village full of cats these days and very run down. But we have been there a few times.
I was going to say, it sounds like you've visited. Yes. Yeah,
we have. No, we've been quite a few times to Italy. Even earlier this year, we spent quite a bit of time in Italy. In fact, I think we went to your hometown, which is Molfetta. Is that right?
Yes, Mum's family is from Molfetta, yeah.
And loved Molfetta. And then through Puglia back to Cassano, which is not far from Benevento, Avellino area, on the way through to Naples. And then we didn't go to Calabria this time, but, we have travelled that route quite a few times previously. We've still got, Rom's family still got, he's still got family in Italy and in Switzerland. So we try and catch up with them from time to time.
Okay, but it sounds like your Italian must be pretty good then.
My Italian is not really very good. Many years ago, I spent about 3 months in Perugia thinking I was going to the university and learning Italian. But by the time we got to all the grammar and the past participles and the imperfects and the perfects and whatever, it just got too hard. And so I just enjoyed myself and ate gelati every day and travelled around the countryside and went to Siena and Spoleto and all the other beautiful places around in Tuscany and around the region of Perugia. I did study Italian again. I confess, it's terrible. I studied Italian again in Canberra at the TAFE with a friend. We thought we'll go and learn Italian. I still didn't. I can speak a bit and I can understand a reasonable amount. Rom's parents, it's really a dialect. It's almost a mischiata of the Napolitan and the Calabrese. So it's a little bit of a bastardized version. But if I pay attention, I can understand and I can communicate. I can ask questions, but I couldn't have had this conversation with you in Italian.
Well, interesting. A friend of mine who also went to Perugia, amongst that, they'd had a visit to the Perugina factory. And he said for the first time, he really liked the baci Perugina because they were fresh, freshly made. It made a big difference to what we get here compared to what we get here.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Well, thank you again, both Lisa and mental blank.
Susan.
Oh dear.
That's okay. Not a problem.
It's age. Thank you, Lisa and Susan. And yes, we'll have a chat again in a few weeks, in a couple of months' time.
All right then. Lovely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Molto grazie.